expression to what is deemed acceptable by those who have power, and it restricts the rights for people to speak who need it most. It's telling people like myself who oppose
the entire event.
Be quiet or get out. Be quiet or get out. I am speaking. Be quiet or get out. 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 If you want to speak, go outside. Be quiet or get out. Be quiet or get out. Don't worry. Be quiet or get out.
You will stop the speech 3 times.
Be quiet or get out. Be quiet or get out.
Then please stop speaking while Mariam is having her speech. You can ask questions at the end.
Do not quiet.
Stop.
Be quiet. I'm trying to stop.
You're intimidating.
You're intimidated. Go to your safe space.
If you're going to keep interrupting, then please just leave.
The white shot. The white shot.
Yes, you're allowed to be here. I'm not saying it. You're fine, but then please quiet down.
Be quiet or let me see.
Intimidation.
Excuse me.
Can you stop interrupting me?
Listen to her, not to you, alright?
What are you thinking then?
Who are you?
It's telling people like myself who have fled theocracies and religious laws that people who have fled them or who are living under the boot of the religious right must face segregation and Sharia courts right here in Britain. We cannot refuse and resist. It's our culture and religion after all. We have no choice but to submit to our fascists.
Safe space. Sorry.
Ironically, the postmodernist
Excuse me.
Ironically, the postmodernist leftists who are pushing the line have one set of progressive politics for themselves. They rightly want gay marriage, women's equality, and the right to criticize the Archbishop, and another for us. We're merely allowed to make demands within the confines of Islam and identity politics. As an ex-Muslim woman, I am supposedly a minority within a minority. But the power imbalance never seems to be part of any equation. If we speak, we are labeled native informants, and the far right accuses us of practicing taqiyya if we oppose the scapegoating of Muslims and immigrants. I've also been accused of practicing taqiyya by far right groups like
He just told me to shut the fuck up.
and
To stand there. Don't tell me to sit down. Don't tell me to sit down. Who are you to tell me to sit down?
This person is telling us to shut the fuck up. He's telling us to shut the fuck up. Did anyone hear that?
Well, I think so about your comment.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, it's okay.
Can you get out?
No, this is my.
He's the main one. He's the right one. Hello. He's the main one. Don't touch me. No, don't touch him. No, you touching me.
I'm sorry.
You are coming outside with me. Right. You are coming outside with me.
Shut up, man.
Get out. Who are you? You are coming outside with me, man. You are coming outside with me. Their objection is to me. You are coming outside with me. All of you. Get out.
Okay, no,
Get out.
or what? What do you want to do, huh? You want to hold my
Get out. Or sit down and do not interrupt my I don't want to listen to this talk. Who are you?
Wait, sir.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. Why is he going? Why is he going out? No, I do. I'm sorry.
Congratulations.
I don't want you.
We can just each hear what you like. I'm happy to have a discussion at the end. I'm happy to do that. But you guys they've said it's going to be
Carry on with me.
If you don't say anything else, we can continue. You can ask a Mariam questions at the end once it is finished. But if you keep making comments, then
What goes?
he's one.
Can I carry on?
Happy to let you guys know, but just keep making
Look, she's being insulted again. Why is she insulted? She's insulting us.
Don't comment about us. He's making a valid point, miss.
Our elderly guest is
We're not asking questions or making a point. It's a case of we have to
everyone's going to get enough.
What does Islamism and Muslims on the left, as well as the right, is that many Muslims are also critics of Islamism and even Islam. In fact, Muslims, or those who are labeled Muslims, like myself, are often the first victims of Islamism and at the forefront of resistance. After all, not everyone in the what is called the Islamic world or Muslim community, or those labeled Muslim students on campus, are Muslims, or even if they are, religion is not necessarily the only characteristic that defines them. Moreover, the rise of Islamism has brought with it a corresponding rise in the demand for atheism, secularism, and particularly women's liberation. Ordinary Muslims, like all other believers, pick and choose and mold their beliefs to make them compatible with contemporary life, which is why they often don't recognize their religion in the Islamists. This is a perfect example. This is after the stoning of Roxana a few weeks ago, 19-year-old Roxana, by the Taliban in Afghanistan. You have women, many of whom are Muslim, who have a placard in Kabul, Afghanistan, saying, please remove the filthy hands of the merchants of religion from our country so that we don't have any more Farkhundes and Rokshanas. Conflating criticism of Islam and Islamism with bigotry against Muslims sees dissent through the eyes of the Islamists and not the many who refuse and resist. For those who have bought into the Islamist narrative, there are no social and political movements, class politics, dissenters, women's rights campaigners, socialists, just homogenized Muslims. And you should read Islamists when they talk about Muslims, who face intimidation and discrimination if an ex-Muslim woman speaks on a university campus. This is the problem with multiculturalism and identity politics. The homogenized group identity is the only one that seems to exist. The authentic Muslim is always reactionary, fully veiled, pro-Sharia courts, pro-gender segregation, pro-death penalty for apostates and gay people, anti-Semitic, and of course, anti-free expression. That is the stereotype of the authentic Muslim.
Anti-Semitism started in Europe.
Here's a photo of, in Iran, veiling is compulsory. Here is a photo of a woman who has taken an unveiled photo of herself saying, in front of a placard that says, sisters, respect your Islamic hijab. So the point is that there is resistance and dissent even amongst Muslims, even in countries that are considered Muslim majority. As Algerian sociologist Mariam Helaloukas says, what is most upsetting is the implication that oppressed people can only turn out as fascists, never revolutionaries. Is this really what the left in Europe now believes? She adds, can the left really accept that citizens are assigned minority identity against their will on the basis of their name, or their geographical origin, or that of their families? Can the left accept that this communal identity supersedes civil rights? This was done to the Jews under Nazism. Will the left accept that it be done to Muslims, or those presumed to be Muslims, regardless of their personal religious beliefs? If the left is serious about supporting oppressed minorities, it should realize that those who speak in the name of the community do not necessarily have the legitimacy to do so. By supporting fundamentalists, they simply choose one camp in a political struggle without acknowledging it. The result of all this, as Kenan Malik says, the writer, is that solidarity has become increasingly defined, not in political terms, as collective action in pursuit of certain political ideals, but in terms of ethnicity or culture. And since those in power determine the dominant culture, many student unions, those on the left, and even feminists, side with Islamism at our expense. They don't see that at its core, this is a fight between theocrats and the religious right on the one hand, and secularists and those fighting for social justice on the other. It's a fight taking place within and across communities and borders. including and especially amongst those within which is labeled the Muslim community or world. Take the example of 27-year-old Farkhunde. She was accused by a mullah of being an infidel who burned verses of the Quran. She was attacked by a mob in Kabul, lynched, stoned, run over, burnt, and her body thrown in a river whilst onlookers and police watched. What could she expect, said one liberal to Twitter, when she went against Muslim sensibilities in this way? But actually, Farkhunde was a very devout Muslim and had gone to the local mullah to tell him to stop selling amulets to women. What became very obvious after Farkhunde's murder was that not all Afghans, not all Muslims, and not all Muslim men have the same sensibilities. Women carried her body, going against Islamic customs with the permission of her family, to her gravesite, and encircled her coffin, there were men who were surrounding them to protect them. And when a mullah who had justified Farkhunde's murder tried to join them after he saw that there was all these protests in her defense, the women created a circle around her coffin and refused to allow him entry, and they forced him to leave the gravesite. Azaryun, who's a youth activist, she said, "This is what Farkhunde teaches me. Together, we can change the narrative that others write about women." We stood up against the most respected mullah. We carried the coffin and we buried her. Niayesh, who's a medical student, said, "It was the first time that I realized my real power and told myself that I am breaking the boundaries of tradition." So the people of Afghanistan do not all agree. Muslims are not all the same. And I place Muslims in quotes because not everyone living in Iran or Afghanistan are Muslims or Islamists, just like not everyone living in Britain is Christian or the EDL.